I'm Travis Salsman, and this is Transfer. Transfer to me is how you learn new things based on what you know about others. The book simply states that transfer is a phenomenon in which something a person has learned at one time affects how the person learns or performs in a later situation. There's several examples of transfer. One used is speaking English and Spanish fluently. A student begins high school in a French course, and she immediately recognized similarities between French and Spanish. She knows that this will help her learn French. That is an example of positive transfer, which is what kind of transfer happens in most cases, where prior learning helps new learning or performance in another situation. There's also examples of negative transfer, such as Ted's 5th grade class working with decimals for several weeks. His teacher asked which number is larger, 4.4 or 4.14. Ted recalls something he knows about numbers. 3 digits are larger than 2, but in this instance he mistakes it because 4.14 does have 3 digits, whereas 4.4 has 2, but 4.14 is smaller than 4.4. And this is a case of where negative transfer is taking place, where you have an instance where existing knowledge or skills has hindered the later learning. Ted is referred to a transfer of principle related to a situation where it didn't apply. There's many examples of positive transfer where they're related to real-world tasks and problems. And they should be a major goal for all students. And unfortunately, learners often don't apply the school subject matter out of school situations because they don't retrieve it from their long-term memory where it might be useful. A fictional depiction of positive transfer where it's helped learning or performance in another situation was the movie Happy Gilmore, where a hockey player who's terrible at every other thing but hockey except for his slap shot uses this to positive transfer to go play golf, and he can drive the ball really far because he's used what he knew about having a good slap shot to use for his drive. Like I said earlier, most transfer is positive, which it helps rather than hinders, such as learning a baseball swing or learning to hit off a tee and then learning to hit without the tee. Negative transfer, like I said, is an instance where the prior knowledge or skill has hindered you from learning. With me personally, I used to play a lot of baseball, and hitting a baseball has always been easy, and a golf swing is very similar. I thought it would be much like the same swing, but it's not. And I learned that I slice and hook a lot because I guess it's a negative form of transfer, whereas I'm just swinging like to pull or push a ball or hook or slice it. It's just a lot harder. You have to kind of relearn some aspects of it and realize that it's not the same. When it comes to transfer, learners are more likely to apply new knowledge and skills when they engage in a meaningful rather than rote learning. Because when knowledge and skills are appropriately interconnected in long-term memory, learners are more likely to retrieve them in relevant situations. Like we discussed earlier in the chapters, you transfer knowledge and skills to new situations when you study a few things in depth and learn them well rather than studying many topics. So it's easier to learn a new task when you devote yourself to that one in depth. Positive and negative transfer are more common, and a new situation appears to be similar to a previous one. Transfer from one situation to another is more likely to occur when the two situations overlap in some way because of retrieval cues that remind you of relevant things that you've learned in the past. There are other types of transfer, specific transfer versus general, where specific transfer occurs when the original task and the transfer task do overlap in some way, such as in their content or underlying structure. Math would be a prime example, where you're building new concepts based on the old ones you already know. General transfer, which is comes harder for students, is more your knowledge and skills transfer to, because they're transferring to a different situation. It's possible for transfer to occur when the original task is different from the other task, which is what we're calling general transfer. And a good example of that would be, like the textbook says, taking notes in your history class can help you out. Transfer occurs easier. General transfer occurs more easily when the content and structure overlap to some extent, but not very much. There are specific distinctions between the two. Specific transfer is easier for students than general transfer. But when learning new strategies and general beliefs, the attitude is also what helps transfer to new situations. And that transfer can increase when the environment encourages it. This is a phenomenon that we talk about, we call the culture of transfer, which is a learning environment which applies school subject matter to diverse situations and topics, is both the expectation and the norm. In these classrooms, students may be encouraged to think about how they're going to use the information as they listen and read and study. The culture has a lot to do with transfer. It's one of the prime directives of it. It's putting yourself in a situation or a setting that you want to learn in. And it helps you in learning almost anything. Thank you. That's my presentation on transfer.